Welcome to the Weights and Plates podcast. I am Robert Santana. I am your host, along with Trent Jones, my co-host.
Hola.
Yeah,
you understood that.
I did.
Because you speak Spanish, right?
I can speak Spanish. Con un acento.
I'm sad to say that I grew up in Texas, and I've lived in Texas for at least 25 years, and I can't speak any Spanish.
Well,
it's a shame. It's shameful.
You know, I grew up in Metro Chicago. My parents, both my parents were born in Cuba, and both learned Spanish first. But my mother raised me with English, and I went to school in Illinois. So I'm not a Cuban. I'm kind of an American.
Illinois.
So it used to be ILL, now it's IL on the map. But I just choose to speak English because I was born here.
That's fair.
I've never been to Cuba.
Yeah.
So can I speak it at the kindergarten level? Sure. My vocabulary is, I should give myself more credit than that. I have a decent vocabulary, but my pronunciation's spot on. I have an accent and all that fun jazz, but I don't like to speak Spanish, so I just don't.
That's fair.
Tengo un acento.
Well, that's normally this is the section of the podcast where we'd be like, well, that's related to our topic today, but it's not related whatsoever. No. Instead, we have a much better topic for you. We have a guest on the podcast. The very first guest we've had on Weights and Plates, Drea Wild, is joining us.
Hey, how you doing?
Hello.
We are doing well. Drea is Drea, I'll let you introduce yourself, actually, but Drea is going to join us and talk today about the restaurant problem. So this is something we've talked about on the show at length about, why restaurants are a trap for, if you're trying to eat clean and you're trying to, hit your macros and all that good stuff. So Drea has worked in kitchens, and she has some professional experience that she's going to share with us today. And so welcome to the podcast, Drea.
Hey, thanks much. I appreciate being here. This is really cool. Yeah, there is a restaurant problem. I love that you put it that way. There's actually a very large gap of knowledge out there between how we get trained in the restaurant business and how nutritionists are trained. And there isn't really a connecting piece between them. We don't really talk. Those places don't talk. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And so tell us about your background. So you went to culinary school, right?
Yes. I went to Cordon Bleu. It was the school that was in Oregon. It was really awesome. It was in the middle of the city. I really enjoyed my time there and graduated with honors. It's a certificate program, and then went on to do a degree in culinary operations through the through the Scottsdale campus, which is kind of cool. And then I have a previous degree in human factors. So it's kind of fun to marry all three of those together to really see, how we are in the kitchen, and then add the cooking piece onto it and just make everything way more efficient. So that's kind of my jam. I really like doing that.
So you're really good at mise en place, right?
Mise en place.
Mise en place. Yeah, see, I don't know French either.
It is. Yeah. So you're talking about fish. That's cool. If you want to fillet a fish, that's really awesome. A little mise en place there. But yeah. So mise en place or mise. Yeah. Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's just preparing everything and have everything ready in advance, which is what a lot of restaurants do. And that's a really good point, because I think a lot of people, when they go to restaurants, they think maybe when they cook at home, they're not good enough, or, something else. And we kind of get down on ourselves for cooking at home, which restaurant cooking they have everything. They've done everything in advance. They've done their mise. So they spend the entire day cutting everything, chopping everything, putting everything into small little containers, into everything else. So when you go to a restaurant and you order something, you're just basically getting the finishing dish. All they do is throw everything into a pot or a pan or whatever they need to do, and they serve it to you. So that's why you can get your food in 15 minutes in a restaurant, whereas at home, it feels like it takes forever.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I never thought about that, that when I go there, I literally can get it in under an hour. But if I were to try and do that, it would, take 5 to 6 times as long.
Well, it would. And that's
Yeah.
kind of, it's true. That's really one of the big things. I mean, I think sometimes people have a psychological block about cooking at home because we think we're not good enough. Everything in our culture right now has pointed us to the fact that we're not fast enough, that we're not good enough, that we can't chop good enough. 30-minute meals, we can start on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, like,
that'll be another rabbit hole that we can go down.
Oh, yeah.
So you're telling me that they don't have like a Rachel Ray in the kitchen that's just like,
Oh my God.
and we just need a little EVOO.
Oh, and a little this and a little that. And okay.
How do I make the pretty bowls appear on my countertops,
There's so many bowls. There's so many bowls.
And
I
they
don't
appear
know
out
who
of nowhere.
has 12 dishwashers to do that. That's
She has like a
crazy.
bowl for like we're gonna need an eighth cup of chopped chives, and she's got a little bowl that's the exact eighth of a cup. Come on.
Chop that shit and throw it in. What the hell are you doing?
We got to do an episode
why?
on cooking.
Yeah. Oh, yes,
we can
definitely.
do an episode on cooking.
So-
Absolutely. And it's called make room on your cutting board, put as many things on your cutting board that can touch, like don't put raw meat on your cutting board at the same time as vegetables. Everybody knows that. But other than that, like use that stuff, be efficient. But yeah, getting back to the restaurant thing, like, yeah, they do that, the 30-minute meal at home thing, like Rachel Ray and all these cooking shows, right? They get there and they're like, yeah, you can do this in 30 minutes. Well, the thing we have to remember is it's just like the restaurant culture. They have been trained. They have been doing this for a long time. They have the muscle memory. So it's a lot like your training that you guys do, right? You have the muscle memory.
Yeah.
After a while, you do that, you do it, you build it up, you have it. That's it. Like I can chop an onion with my eyes closed. Cool. That's great. Hopefully not cut off my finger. But like you're able to do these things faster because you have built up that skill and built up that muscle memory, and people forget that when they go to cook something at home. So they see that it's supposed to take them 20 minutes. It takes them 40 and they think they're failures and they don't want to do it again. And that's just bullshit.
Yeah.
As you're talking, I just totally just want to just turn this into a cooking episode, but
Dude, we can.
Yeah.
I got notes for days. Let's go.
we're going to have that's for sure. Cause now you've just made me realize, I'm like, man, we've been talking about this restaurant thing in pretty much every episode, and it's, which I'll elaborate on for the listeners,
Yes.
but it's the thing I deal with the most. But then as you're talking, I'm like, man, I got all these questions now, like,
Right.
For one, why does the damn onion slice stick to my knife? And when you do it, it doesn't happen. What
It
the hell
does.
is
You
that?
just went. So when you grip it, and
Yeah.
I know we're actually talking on a Zoom
Yeah.
right now, so you can see
Yeah.
my hands. But when
Yeah.
you claw grip it, you pop it down on the other side, and then it doesn't.
Ah.
That's like some Houdini shit there.
It is. Yeah.
I bet Drea actually hones and sharpens her knives, and you probably haven't done it since 2008.
Oh, fuck no. I got an IKEA knife that I bought when I was out of
That's your
college.
problem. You got to get a Wüsthof, man. Come on,
The
get with the program.
fact that you know the difference between honing and sharpening means that your wife has definitely taught you well.
It's 100% my wife. Yeah, I can't do
is-
it. She watches me chop, and she's just like, every time. She's like, just let me do it.
Yeah. That's it. I have multiple steels in my kitchen. I actually have a steel for my kid. My kid has her own steel. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. She's 7. It's awesome. She sharpens her plastic knives on it. Yeah.
Good practice. Introduction,
It
right?
is. Right.
So the reason we brought you on here initially, so I moderate the starting strength boards, and your buddy on there, I forgot what we were talking about. I was trying to pull the thread up while you were talking. Admittedly, Bill's
Bill's excellent.
He made a comment on a thread. I think it was an unrelated topic, and he had just said something to the effect of, when you cook a steak at home, it doesn't taste the way that it tastes at the restaurant. And I have a friend who explained this to me. Something, I'm paraphrasing. So I see this, and I'm thinking about some of the things we talk about here and what I deal with for a living. And I'm like, well, you think we can get her on the podcast? And that's how you kind of ended up here. So to elaborate, the most common thing that I find myself coaching people on. So let me back up. I'm a diet coach. I'm a dietitian, an RD, and I'm a strength coach like Trent. And when I'm coaching people on diet, they typically want weight loss. And then I get, a percentage of people that want weight gain. Then there's, a good chunk of people that need to gain weight and don't want to gain weight because they're worried about their abs. And that's a whole nother issue. So most of the time I'm spending coaching people's diets are people that have weight they want to lose. And I learned early on that their number one issue most of the time is that it's not that they don't understand what they need to be doing. They understand they need to be on a calorie restriction, and they've tried several, low carb, low fat, paleo, whatever you want to call it. They've tried every diet in the book that restricts calories. And, I'll put them on something pretty balanced, typically high in carbs, high in protein, low in fat, because that tends to work well for people who are training for something hard. In our case, lifting weights, barbell training, powerlifting, strength lifting. So they'll follow it during the week, just like they'd follow the low carb during the week if I threw it at them. Then the weekend rolls around and they go to a restaurant. And their weight goes up Monday and stays up Tuesday. And then I get the freak out emails throughout the week. And I have to explain to them that you're probably eating your day's worth of calories in a single meal. And I'm just talking, pulling this out of my ass. I don't actually know what the hell's in it. I don't think you do either because nobody's actually measuring that, but what I know is there is a tight correlation between restaurant eating on weekends and lack of progress losing weight. Unless, of course, you're a metabolic furnace and you can lose weight on many calories, but those people aren't the ones that hire me. Typically, those people tend to stay lean too, So I never really actually dug deep into what's in it. Has it been measured? I haven't tried to get actual numbers because nobody's going to take all these entrees and sides and things and run them through chemical analyses and get a bomb calorimeter and do all this scientific stuff that in some ways isn't so scientific to figure that out. So a lot of it's estimated. But what I do know just from general observation is if you look at a plate at a restaurant, fast food place, or even at your house, you could probably estimate, the carb content and the protein content, but you cannot estimate the fat content because that's invisible. You got, with meats, you have intramuscular fat inside the meat that, you can't count because I always get guys that say, I trimmed the fat off. Well, that's the subcutaneous fat. There's still the intramuscular fat that you can't see. And then this is where you come in. There's the preparation methods, where basically anything healthy can become very high calorie very quickly. I remember sitting in a class and the professor's like, these people that say fast food kills, they're just totally ignoring the fact that restaurants have way more calories than fast food. And he brought up this salad dish at the Cheesecake Factory that was over 1,000 calories. I'm like, well, but those are veggies, Yeah. So we want you to speak on this, and educate us, in more detail than, my oversimplified explanation.
Actually, it wasn't. You actually hit on about 4 or 5 really awesome facts right there. And the first one is you're completely right. That's really what it is. I mean, you can't go to a
You're
restaurant.
Not going to dazzle us with bullshit.
And I'm going to go get some more bourbon here, and maybe I'll dazzle you after that. But you are right, because the way that we're trained when we cook is that we add enough salt, enough fat, and enough sugar into everything that we do to make sure that we dazzle your taste buds so that you come back. Because the thing you have to remember is that your goals, your nutrition goals, your personal goals are not in line with restaurant goals. A restaurant wants to make money, which is not a bad thing because they are a business. So we're not going to label them as bad people that are out to get you. Like, they're actually a business, right? So, I mean, from the highest tier to the lowest tier restaurant, everything else, their main goal is to get you to come back because they want to make money. So the way they do that is by making sure that the dishes that they send out are balanced specifically with fat, salt, and sugars, which is what we learn in culinary school, to make your palate go, oh my God, I want that again.
Yeah.
That's what we do. You know what I mean? So, that's what it is. So, like, most pan sauces are finished with butter. I mean, it prevents the pan sauce from breaking, but I mean, also it gives that velvety mouthfeel that, like, when you put that pan sauce, it could be like a fish with a pan sauce, or it could be a sauce over a meat or anything else that you have. And that velvety mouthfeel that you're like, oh, I can't get that at home. Like, yeah, you can't, because you probably don't finish it with butter and a whole bunch of other stuff too. And you haven't been salting it the entire time that you've been doing it either. So that's, you know what I mean? So that's, we we layer flavors is what we do, which is another really good thing that you touched on there. Like, well, so salads, great. So you talk about salads, Cheesecake Factory. I've never personally worked at Cheesecake Factory, but the restaurant that I used to work at was farm to table restaurant, 100%. I mean, we got local. I mean, it was Portland, man. Like, you watch Portlandia, we're there, 100%. Like, we knew the names of the chickens. We knew everything else like that. Like, and I was a butcher's assistant, so I was breaking them down and all that kind of stuff. It was great. And so I got to work garde manger for a while, which is a fancy way of saying salad station. And you time it, but I mean, if you were someone that was maybe concerned about sodium intake and you're talking about weight gain, a lot of that is because of sodium intake when you go out to eat. So let's say you order a salad. Let's say you order a pickled beet salad. All right, great, which is actually one of our specialties when I was there. So first you got the pickling. So the pickling is actually a salt and sugar process that those beets are in for a very long time. So they've absorbed that salt and that sugar. Right. Which I don't know how much is actually passed on to you. I'm not really sure, but it's pickled. So, I mean, what are you going to do? Then we actually season the greens that go into it too. So you actually season your salad. So I'm putting salt and pepper on whatever that base green is, either that lettuce or that arugula or whatever we're serving it on to. And then I have maybe a salty cheese, something else going on to it. And then I actually have a dressing that's been seasoned on top of that. So we've got 4 or 5 layers now of actually salt and seasoning that are going into this one amazing salad. Now, will it make you cry? And will you want to come back? Absolutely. Is it great for your diet? No. And it's a salad.
That's right. Yeah. So I think that's a really great point. So, we know that just very basically, like, if you have something that's really salty, then like you're naturally going to start to gravitate towards something sweeter. And then if you have something really sweet, you want something salty. So, the extremes of on the palate can lead you to overeat. And that's really interesting because you're talking about that. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, one of the problems with the restaurant is it's not necessarily the flavor itself. It's that flavor keeps you coming back to the plate. And then we get on to like portion sizes, right? So like maybe everything on the plate is not a good portion size for you.
No.
But if it's so flavorful, then like, I mean, how can you stop yourself, right?
Well, that's true. And see what we do in the restaurant, and that's what culinary school is. It teaches us to balance these fats, salts, and sugars to the point where you don't feel like it's overwhelming. So you keep coming back. That was a very salient point. You keep coming back and keep coming back because you don't feel like you've been overwhelmed by any one of those 3 flavors. You hit that like peak point where you can just keep going and slide on through.
That's interesting.
Well, the interesting thing, so when it comes to mixing something sweet with something salty, it can basically create this state of what we call disinhibition, where you can just keep eating.
It's amazeballs.
It overrides your satiety signals, so you can keep eating. It's a survival mechanism because remember, famine was historically the problem for us humans. So it was one way in which we can battle that. So if you eat something salty and follow it up with something sweet, you can keep going and override those satiety signals and creates a state of disinhibition. So you just can keep eating far more than you would otherwise.
You absolutely can. And I mean, you're
that's why the Oreo is great.
Well, yeah, but the double stuff is too much. See, that's the thing. That's why it's too much, because it lost that balance. But you're true, because I mean, we need our palates. That's why fat, salt, and sugar. That's why they have like people at agencies that go crazy over the exact like measurements of what we put into these processed foods that we have now, because our bodies are like, well, we need salt, that's salary, that's the whole Roman soldier type of thing. Like they were paid in salt. That's where the name salary came from, because we know that our bodies need salt and we need sugars and fats, because I mean, that's energy, that's slow versus fast burn energy, right? So that's our flight or fight sin like that we've got going on there. So our whole body is designed to go, I want these 3 things. And we have an industry that's figured out that they can make a lot of money off of that. And that's where we are right now, and that doesn't necessarily coincide with your nutrition goals and your weight training goals and everything else,
Right.
So you just can't do it. Like there's just, you're trying to answer your question. You're trying to shove a square peg into a round hole. You can't go out to eat and order the same exact thing that you would make at home and think that it's going to be the same as though you made it at home. You just absolutely can't. You're fucked. That's wrong.
Yeah.
And you're just wrong. You just have to own it. You just be like, I'm just going to make a bad decision today and then own it on Tuesday when the scale moves in the direction that you don't want it to go.
Sure.
That's pretty much it.
Which is what I essentially tell people. I'm just like,
that's true. That's
I'm
true.
like, you're fucked. You're just gonna have to eat it, or you're gonna have to go there and torture yourself and eat very little.
But even if you go and eat very little, like it's not like that even, because even the amount of sodium and
volume has no correlation with calories at that point.
Yeah. It doesn't, but I mean, there's a psychological thing to going out too. Like just own it. If you're going to go out because you need a break, because you need a psychological break to reduce your stress, then own it. Say, I'm going to do it, and just know it's going to affect the scale on Tuesday.
Yeah. And that's one of the interesting things about humans and food, right? Is like food isn't just functional for us. It doesn't just fulfill the purpose of making our body work. It also fulfills a lot of important social roles. So we're not necessarily down on restaurants, dear listener. We're not down on restaurants. It's just we need to be wide-eyed and aware of what we're doing when we go in those restaurants. So you kind of mentioned this, that the volume of food that you get at a restaurant is not, you can't estimate how many calories you're going to get by the volume of food. And one of the big factors in that is the fat content of food. So I'm really curious. So when you were making those salads and it had a particular dressing on it, like how are the dressings prepared? Like, are you doing it for every salad, or do you create like a bunch of it and then that is, distributed to other salads, or how does the preparation work?
You have actually hit on a really, 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 really good point there. I have people ask me, what is a good thing to eat when you go out to a restaurant? Like, what is better or not, Oh,
okay. Yeah.
And like, can you give me a across the board, I swear this ties in, like, can you give me an across the board thing? Like if I go to a restaurant, if I order this instead of this, it's, it'll be better for me type of thing. Kind of like trying to circumvent the whole, you can't shove a square peg in a round hole thing.
Right.
And come back to reality. Hi. Yeah, there we go. But, the answer is I can't answer you on that because every restaurant prepares everything differently. So when you ask about dressings and salads and stuff like that, like we, at the restaurant that I worked at, it was a farm to table restaurant. Like I said before, like we made everything from scratch, including all of our dressings and everything else. So every time a salad would come up to order, the chef, there would be an order in for the table. And if there was a salad included in it, the chef would have an 8-minute timer and he would pop it up there on the side of the wall. We had an open kitchen, but there was like a part that we could see that nobody else can see. And you had to fire your salad within the last 2 minutes, because whenever you add salt to anything like that is a lettuce, it will wilt. So we had the type of stuff. But when we made the salads, you did it to taste, and I tasted every single salad. So every single salad, I had my own bowl. I had my gloves on. I had everything else. I mixed all the ingredients. I did all the salt, everything else. I would take a piece. I would taste it. I would, pop that part out, put my glove up. Obviously I wouldn't go back in the same bowl, all that kind of stuff. So that was dressing to taste, everything to taste every single time. And if I need to adjust it, I would. So there were no set dressing amounts at large scale restaurants, like, you're very like Outback or something else like that. You had the exact amount of dressing that's supposed to go out with it. You had the exact amount of stuff that's supposed to go out with it. So calorically, could you maybe track that because you maybe had an idea of that type of dressing and how much you were putting on it or dipping? Maybe a little bit, but like
it's a lot of error.
It's different in every restaurant. Like some restaurants could put a lot of salt on their chicken. Some could not. So it's really just there's no set and when you see these caloric things on menus, right? When you see this is 343 calories. I want to be like, oh my God,
it was a bunch of horse shit.
Are you fucking kidding right now? That's a plus or minus maybe 500 or 600 calorie wag, depending on but it's human error. Like
Right,
it's
right.
human error. Like, that the person grabs a little bit more. And in some restaurants, they actually do portion out to the point where they've measured these things out, and people are literally just taking these things that are measured out and dumping them in a dish and doing that. But even then, like,
Even
okay.
food labels are
Like,
full of shit. They measured these things 100 years ago and they've extrapolated
yeah.
since. They're not paying chemists to analyze every item of food that goes in the grocery store and has a label on it. They're not doing
Yeah.
that. It's expensive, it's laborious, and it's unnecessary. But you made me think of something there, Trent. When it comes to carbohydrates and protein, the volume of food, it's probably correlated with the amount of food to some extent. You can probably look at it and kind of estimate what's there.
Yeah, like a fist of chicken or something. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that, right? A deck of cards, I think, was an analogy at one point. All that stuff works with protein and carbs. When it comes to fat, forget about it. The volume of food could be very small. The caloric content could be very high. And that's essentially what we're all kind of hitting at here. So it comes back to goals, right? Again, most of the people that hire a diet coach want weight loss. That's usually what it is. They have weight they either need to lose or think they need to lose. That's a whole other topic. And when it comes to weight loss, you have to eat fewer calories than you're consuming. And that's a very, very hard line in the sand that you really can't get around. You have to maintain a caloric deficit, not just Monday through Friday, Monday through Sunday, and then you do it again. This is a weeks at a time effort. Fat comes off over the course of weeks, not days. It's a cumulative process. Just as it can come on a little bit faster, but typically that is also a cumulative process. You don't gain 50 pounds in a few days. It happens over months and years, So people have a hard time understanding that. So if you're, in a deficit Monday through Friday and create a surplus on Saturday and Sunday because you ate at a restaurant, you're going to probably not lose weight that week. Are you going to gain fat that week? You're probably not going to do that either. It's not going to completely destroy you. But this is what I try to explain to people when I say, you're going to lose body fat over a longer timeline because of your lifestyle, and that's fine. Just accept that. You have to break out of this mentality that every time you get on the scale, it's supposed to go down. And I have people like that. They'll just weigh several times a week, and if it ever goes any other direction, they go insane. And I have that conversation. It's not supposed to go down every time, and if it does, it's probably not body fat until it's been at least a week. So to contextualize that to our conversation, it's what you said earlier. Just go. You're fucked. You're going to go over your calories. You're probably going to have a flat week, and that's fine. Because realistically, let's say, it tends to be more of an issue with females versus males because women tend to have lower metabolic rates than men on average. There's exceptions. You get some girls that are metabolic furnaces, of course. But, if you're a woman and you have to lose weight on 1,500 or less calories, which is, this is all self-reported, by the way. We have no idea what the fuck people are actually eating, which is a whole nother podcast we need to talk about at some point. But, according to what people say they eat, a lot of females report having to lose weight on 1,000 to 1,500 calories, and that number can go up with body size, and genetic endowment and all those other factors. That's a whole nother topic that we're not going to get into today, but let's assume that's the case. You need to eat 1,200 calories to lose weight. Well, when that's just the appetizer or the alcoholic beverage that you ordered, the cocktail, how is that going to work? You could, there's some little tricks you can do, but to keep a restaurant meal, let's say that's the only meal you have of the day and you fast all day. 1,200 calories could be one item on the menu, Yeah. That's your whole day.
Easily.
I will tell you as a woman, you're totally right. And that's what they tell us. They're like, it's 12 to 1,500 calories, depending on like what else you're doing too. So if you're working out, it goes a little bit higher, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I mean, if that's something that actually is your goal and you're committed to doing it, you just can't. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And actually, you kind of had an interesting point there. Alcohol might be the safest thing to have at a restaurant when you go out, as long as you don't have anything else, because that is probably the one thing that you might be able to measure and track the calories in. Yeah. Because it comes out of a bottle that you can kind of predetermine where you are. I mean, I'm going to say like within a plus or minus 100 calorie type of thing, because restaurants are very specific about their pours. You've either got a 6 or a 9 ounce pour, probably in a glass of wine. And they're pretty specific about it because that is a money making or losing thing for them. So they know exactly where their pours are and they watch their bartenders. for that fact, because you need to make sure that you're not losing money in that. So if it was a thing where you just wanted to go out and socialize, get that socialness, just have a break, whatever else, so like as long as you don't touch the food, alcohol might actually ironically be your way to go if you're actually watching your calories and nothing else, like, because that's the only thing that's measurable.
So what you're saying is I should just go get hammered instead of eating any food at the
I am not, like, if Bill's listening to this right now, he's going to laugh his ass off. I am not the person to ask that question, but yes, that's 100% what I'm saying.
Understood.
Go for it.
You got it. I'm all right. I'm going to put this into
Russian.
practice.
I'm Russian. I have a Russian background. I can go for days, man.
Super liver.
So, that too.
As the dietitian in the room, I have to agree with her that it's much easier to measure alcohol, and you don't even need a food label for that. You look at the alcohol content of the liquor or wine or beer that you're drinking, and then you multiply that percentage by the amount of milliliters, in the container. So usually a shot is going to be 1.5 ounces. That's 45 milliliters. So you multiply your ounces by 30 to get milliliters. And then a glass of wine, they're going to give you 5 ounces. So that's 150 milliliters. And a beer is a beer is where you can get a little bit more. They'll probably give you a pint. It's about 16 ounces. So you got to multiply that by 30. You're probably really getting, a beer and a half when you order that out, which is, fine. And you're assuming 4 to 6%. So now if you're drinking, these IPAs and these barrel proof whiskeys, that number goes up, right? So when I do my nutrition camps, this is where I depress people. When I go through the calculation and I explain, okay, here is a pour. A pour is 1.5 ounces, 45 mLs. And the assumption when you say the word one drink is that it's 80 proof, even though everybody in this podcast probably likes to drink higher proof than that. I typically start at 90.
I'm at 95 right now, but we're not counting.
If I'm cutting weight, I'm not touching barrel proof, though. I'm not drinking 9% beers. And, if I'm drinking wine's a little bit more narrow, somewhere in the low teens, 12 to 14%. So you don't have to worry about that. But, when we say one drink, we meaning health care professionals, doctors, dietitians, nurses, etc., we're referring to 45 mils of 80 proof spirits, or an ounce and a half. That's a shot. 5 ounces of wine, or 150 mils, or a 12-ounce can of beer, which is 4 to 6%. Anything higher than that is going to be more than one drink. So one drink is around 130 calories or so when you math that out. So scale that up, right? If you're drinking barrel-proof whiskey, you're around the 200-calorie mark, somewhere around like 192, I think. I remember last time I counted barrel-proof in the 120s. So, you could calculate this just by looking at what you're ordering and just do the math. And everybody always talks about, but the sugar in beer or the sugar in wine, the carb content's actually very low. Most of those calories come from alcohol, so it just blows my mind when I'm talking to people about drinking, and they refer to alcohol as though it doesn't have calories, like, I just drink a pint of, this stout,
Yeah, the double chocolate oatmeal milk stout.
How do you think that doesn't have calories? What are you talking about?
They're like, I only had one, and I think they know it has calories, but they don't realize that it's probably close to a meal. Like, one of those beers could have 350 calories, with most of it coming from the alcohol. That's the funny part. They're like, but the carbs.
Honestly, I don't think a lot of people actually know that. Yeah, really, like, you have something along with your dinner or something else like that. It's like, that is actually like, you just had your appetizer. That's what it is. And to your point too, I know that the dietitian measurement is like a 5 ounce pour for a glass of wine, but most restaurants actually do a 6 to 9.
I believe it.
Ounce pour. So like, even if you get a glass of wine in a restaurant, you were over just that. You were at probably depending on your restaurant, the pour and how much you've tipped your waiter or whatever kind of shirt you're wearing, like, you're probably at least a serving and a half. I
believe that.
Yeah.
On the first pour. So, that's something you just need to put in your mind and just know that, okay, I've just drank my appetizer. What am I having for dinner? Or am I having an appetizer for dinner, or what else? But like, you're past that point.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Yeah, that's a great point. And in my professional experience, having none of these credentials that y'all have, when one drinks a given amount of alcohol, then one also tends to eat a given amount of food.
100%. And you're amazing at billiards. Go for it.
Right. Yeah.
Or
and
darts,
everything else.
Yes. For 20 minutes.
Yeah. I know that if I get the bison blue cheeseburger, if I've had a double chocolate oatmeal milk stout with that burger, I am going to eat the sweet potato fries with it. And it's just going to happen, right? But maybe if I didn't have that beer, then I'd just be like, well, I just want the burger today.
No, you should always have sweet potato fries. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
I want in the head. Like, I don't know. Just don't have the beer and have sweet potato fries. What the hell's wrong
right.
with you?
Yeah, exactly. That was a poor example.
It was. But yes, you're right.
I'm curious again. So I want to talk a little bit more of the prepreparation side, because I just think this is really interesting. I just know so little of it. So what about when we're talking about like meat preparation? So when you order at a restaurant, like a fillet of fish, or a not the McDonald's fillet of fish, but or like a burger or a steak or something like that. Like how what are the kind of grill conditions? How is it generally prepared at a restaurant versus like you might do it at home?
Well, I will caveat that with every restaurant is different, so I have to throw it out there, right now. But I was the butcher's assistant at the restaurant that I did my externship in, and we would actually do a lot of sous vide stuff in advance so that we could fire it faster, and it's actually safer too. So your first semester in culinary school is how to not kill people. Basically, that's actually what it is. But we don't learn anything about nutrition, which is so crazy. Like there's zero nutrition classes in culinary school. How to not kill people
quickly, not about killing people slowly, right? Yeah,
it's basically like, you're talking about like listeria, food safety, all that kind of stuff. So all the quick ways to like not kill people. Sous vide is actually one of them. You got to be careful about vacuum sealing. There's something in there too, but. So, and knife skills, that's actually all we do our first semester. We don't I think we cooked maybe one thing at the end. I think the chef cooked it for us just because maybe he felt bad that we were at culinary school and we hadn't eaten anything. But that's all we do. So at the restaurant that I was in, we would go through and we would cut everything in advance. A lot of the stuff that, even sometimes the steaks too, like when we had a farm to table dinner, like we would actually sous vide like the whole tenderloin and everything. So it was cooked to where it needed to be before we even got out there. We just finished it on the grill. So when you're talking about protein preparation in a restaurant, you are talking about proteins that have been put into the form that is easiest for the line cook to cook right when you order, and that's it. So they could have been par cooked, they could have been pre-cooked and just being warmed up, which actually happens quite a bit, or finished. We call it finishing. So I say warmed up, but we call it finishing. So maybe you have like a side of chicken or like a quarter chicken, and it was sous vide. So it's been brought up to temperature. So the line cooks don't have to worry about killing you, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yay. Or poisoning you, salmonella, whatever, because we want you to come back, right? So we don't want to, make you sick. That's really cool. And they take it out and you order this like quarter chicken seared over pasta and all that kind of stuff. All right. So someone's dropping the pasta. Maybe you're dropping the pasta at the same time that you've popped this already cooked sous vide to temperature chicken quarter out of a bag or whatever we had it stored in. We're popping it into a pan. We're giving it that golden sear, that nice crisp, all the flavors, probably finishing with a pan sauce. It's really cool, blah, blah, blah. We put it over our pasta that we just made, and boom, you have a quarter chicken and some pasta in like 12 minutes. So a lot of your proteins are being finished with fats and salts and everything else. I think is what you're going for. Yes. To give them that flavor at the end. And there you go.
Okay, that's interesting. And I've heard rumors that some places, which will remain unnamed, that are like big chain restaurants that are in like every city everywhere, that they actually they have a lot of frozen food. So that it's like a lot of times just like freezer to fryer or whatever.
Yeah, you're getting it dumped out of a bag. Absolutely. If you're at a restaurant that actually isn't getting like half their shit dumped out of a bag, congratulations. I'm impressed at your selection, and I want to know how you did it.
Unbelievable.
Oh no. It's true. Seriously, okay. So during the pandemic, I love butchering, right? And the thing that we broke down a lot at the restaurants were lambs, whole lambs, which is it's my passion. Actually, I have a tattoo on my arm on the
Oh,
whole lamb
yeah.
right there. Yeah, you're like, that's really cool. Yeah, so that's like the primals, broken down. And so during the pandemic, one of the restaurant stores that you can only go to if you're a restaurateur opened up to the public because they were like, crap, we need to make money and people actually need to get food. So I was living in a place where my mom was there with me, and I was like, dude, come on, you're going to love this store. It's going to be great. So we go, we get this whole lamb, everything else. And she's walking around the store and she's seeing these things like homemade pierogies and homemade this, and homemade that, and these whole forms of these things that they sell at restaurants. And she's just astounded because she's like, wait, they don't make them there? And I'm like, hell no. No, they come buy them here. What are you talking about? Everything under the sun is in a big package or a big can at these restaurants, and they just come buy them, man. Like, they come buy them. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, I want to like go over to your place and eat lamb that you have cooked over a spit or whatever,
100%.
however you cook lamb. So that's number one.
We can do that. Yeah, it's good.
So the second thing is, so I think that's interesting about the meat preparation. So is what's the use of like so obviously here's the limit of my cooking knowledge. When you put something on a grill or in a pan or something to cook it or to sear it, you need some sort of fat on there to get it to not stick, right? But is there also, like, in terms of like getting the color and stuff, or is there, or like the flavor, are you going for a certain kind of finish with the type of fat and the amount that you're using on there?
It really depends on what you're okay, that's a huge broad question.
Let's say we're doing like a steak, for instance.
All right. Yeah. So you're talking like a quick cook finish steak. Okay. So you've got your fast cook and your slow cook proteins. And so you're talking about a fast cook protein that you would order and to do it, there. What you're going to do is the oil that you're going to use is going to be a high heat oil.
Okay.
So it's going to be something that can withstand, because usually those burners and those ovens are on, and they're on all the time because we're not turning them off. So you need to have like an olive oil with smoke out relatively early. That's a low smoke point oil. So you're going to be using like just a really, maybe a canola oil or like a peanut oil, or like avocado. A lot of restaurants don't avocado, maybe depending on the restaurant that you're in. Like, yeah. So maybe that one. Avocado oil is more expensive. So it depends on where you are and what restaurants can afford. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know that actually there are some restaurants that actually they will sear a steak and then they will actually dip it in butter, like melted butter. I think Ruth's Chris does that. I don't know maybe there's some other ones that do it. Like they will actually do it. They will dunk it and like amazing. Do that. So you got the sear and then they actually dip it in butter and then they put it on your plate. I'm not shitting
It's like
you right
the
now.
butter
Like,
machine actually, at the movie theater,
It is. So like when you have like a protein and you have a fat, it's called the Maillard reaction. That's what actually causes that crispiness on the outside. And that's kind of what you're looking for because it creates that amazing mouthfeel, everything else like that. But you want it seared you're searing at a relatively high temperature at any type of like your quick cook proteins. At any type of a restaurant that you're doing. So you're going to have those burners just on high all the time. So you're going to be using very, I hate to say it, but probably highly processed, highly refined oils, because like your grapeseed or your avocado oils are very expensive. So a lot of restaurants are not going to be buying those in bulk, unfortunately. Yeah, right. So you're not going to be, you want to do that at home? That's cool. You're not going to see it at a restaurant. Yeah.
What about pans? Do you always use cast iron, or what do the restaurants typically use? My friend is convinced that the steaks are always cast iron, but I'm not sure. That's why I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah, they're stainless. They're stainless pans in the back, and they're good. I have much cast iron at home, and I was actually listening to your podcast earlier about cast irons, and good on you for that. We have cast irons too. I love them.
I don't have to add much to it.
No, you don't.
Yeah, that's what
seasoned.
I like.
They're phenomenal. They're great.
Yeah.
We have actually a flat one we use for pizza. My husband is actually a phenomenal baker, and he does all of our breads and he does pizzas. It's amazing. But some restaurants might use cast iron. It depends on the restaurant. Most of them are going to do stainless that they can just pop out and then they can pop in the dish. The dish being the dishwasher in the back, and then they actually recycle. So there's usually at a restaurant, there's multiple dish stations. And whenever you're cooking, you just pop your stuff in the dish. That guy comes forward, he grabs your dishes, he puts them through a high temperature wash, which is sanitizing it over 180 degrees for more than 10 seconds, which is usually what it is. Pops it out. That's great. And then comes back. And then we'll deliver those pans back in stacks to where you need them. And you just pull them as you're doing dishes. So, yeah, it's nice to cook in a restaurant. Everybody does dishes for you.
Sounds like fun.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But do you get the bowls?
Yeah, too. No, you can put anything in the dish, man. The dish is great. So that's why you always gotta be nice to your dishwasher, man, because they can really they can fuck you if you're not nice to them.
Yeah.
Don't fuck with people that handle your food, man. That's from
Exactly.
what was that, Waiting?
Or your dishes. Yeah. That's exactly it.
Did you ever see that movie, Drea, Waiting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
I
And
remember that line.
so I worked back of the house, and my husband in a younger time in his life worked front of the house. And we love that movie because it is so accurate. It is not, I mean, there are stories of stories, allegedly, I will say, at the chain restaurant that he worked at when he was a younger pup. And I will not add names to this, but just when someone didn't like their steak, they'd be like, cool. They send it back. They pop it in the microwave for 30 seconds and be like, here, how you go? There you go. See, I grilled it the first time, but since you don't know what medium rare is, here you go. And they would just put it back on the plate, send it right back out.
That's amazing.
So, yep.
That's amazing.
That's hilarious.
It's totally true too.
I totally believe that.
Yeah. We do not have your best interest in mind. We just want to be
You just have a fucking job to do.
Right.
Pretty much. Now, I will say, I mean, there are some restaurants there are amazing I have to do a small plug there. The craft is incredible at some of these restaurants. It is freaking amazing. I mean, it is just what some of these places do is just eye-watering, and it is wonderful. It is not going to fit into your training diet, but just go and love it for love the craft, just love it, but yeah.
Yeah, those what's the Netflix series is it Chef's Table? Is that the one that does all the like real, I mean, it's basically food porn is what it is, but it's great. It's great. Yeah, it's just like I know so little about like cooking and that whole world, but it's just I'm like fascinated by it, and I don't really I do not watch documentaries about other topics that I'm not interested in or that I have no experience with, but I will watch a food documentary.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, it's really
awesome.
interesting. Yeah, I think that brings me to another point. I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this. I've been thinking while you're talking, like one of the things that is weird about our restaurant experience here in the Western world is that for most people, like we're talking about the restaurant, the problems of the restaurant. It's pretty clear, that you're just not going to fit this into a macro diet that's going to work for training long term. But we're also assuming here when we're talking about this that you're going out to eat once a week or more, right? You're going out to eat on Friday night or Saturday night or both nights. Maybe on Tuesday night too, right? And so that's a big part of our food culture in the U.S. right now is that a lot of people go out to eat every week, sometimes multiple times a week. So then that wasn't always the way. So I can certainly see like this restaurant experience being this is like a celebratory experience that we're supposed to have like on your birthday and then like major feast days. We used to have feast days. Back when there used to be like the church has like feast days.
On a feast day.
Yeah. And, but anyway, basically like there were kind of designated time periods throughout the year where we would have these big blowout dinners, right? That were, from this amazing craftsmanship. And we've kind of outsourced that from the family and from the community into commercial restaurants that need to serve like every day in order to be viable businesses. So to turn that into a question.
You have turned that into like 5 questions, so I'm gonna hit
we have
on
so many questions.
Yeah, okay,
so many
questions. Yeah, I don't know.
So take it off from there. I'm curious about your thoughts about like, okay, so how do we bring the restaurant experience and this amazing craftsmanship of great food back a little bit into the family?
The simple answer to that, and that was a great way to phrase it, the simple answer to that is by understanding and integrating the time it takes to cook into our daily lives is your answer to that. Because what we have now is a progression, a really awesome progression, because I've actually had two careers in my life that I wouldn't have been able to have before the 1990s or 80s, which is really cool. So one of those progressions, it started with the feminism movement of women going like, hey, we're not actually cool only having one job. We actually want to, like, we're kind of smart. We want to do other things. This is really cool. Like, let's go do things. So we did that. But unfortunately, we built our society on only women cook and nobody else does.
Right.
So when we were afforded the opportunity, which is a really awesome opportunity, there was a huge rush to go out and go, oh, I can do this. I could do everything else, all these kind of things. And the buffer back in the house wasn't put in there, either through teaching men, through teaching spouses, through teaching anybody else, through teaching the entire household, like, hey, we all have to figure out how we're going to cook. So that was gone. So enter in processed food, which the other part of it is, you know, like when McDonald's and stuff were started, they were actually dudes just making hamburgers. Like, it was really cool. So it was the same hamburger that you would get at home. As fast food and processed food progressed those years, specifically through like the early 80s through like the mid 90s, they were allowed to add a lot of stuff in there to preserve their foods longer. Trans fat, let's just go with that one, because that's a big thing that people, know about now. And they didn't have to tell anybody. So we have generations of people teaching their children like, oh, it's okay because McDonald's is the same as me cooking at home. Or these foods that I'm getting at the store are the same as me cooking at home, these processed foods. And originally they were, but then they weren't. And now we have a lot of people, between 70 or probably 50 and 80 with metabolic syndrome, other things like that are happening. And a lot of that is because of all the additives that were put into food that they didn't have to tell people by law until it came law. And that was driven by, obviously, the feminist movement of, women going like, hey, I want to do something else besides these two career options you've given me, which, yay, that's really cool. It's awesome because it's allowed me to do some cool things in my life. But we've left a large gap there.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point. It's generational, right?
It is. Yeah. So now we're at a point where we need to go, okay, you know what? I want to bring food into my home. And that has to be a conscious choice. You go, okay. Most of us have our days planned out like to the minute or to the half hour. And do I think that's healthy? No. we've lived on other continents. We lived in Europe. We lived in, Korea. We lived in other places in our career travels. And I'll tell you, in Europe, like a lot of places, they don't do that. They don't open stores before 9. They have siestas in the middle of the day. Like they really enjoy their time, their space, their weekends. And I'm like, where did we go wrong? This, because those times are where you cook family meals, where you do these things, where you enjoy people and everything else. Like in Germany on Sundays, you can't do jack shit. Like you can't even buy a bolt at the grocery store, like nothing. They're like, nope, this is a forced down day. We're done. And I'm like, you know what?
It's wonderful.
Cool. It was hard when we first got there. And after about 3 months, I was like, this is the best thing ever. It's great. You just sit and cook, enjoy your family, have a great time. So the first part of the answer to your question is adding that time in and going, I'm okay with spending this time cooking. I'm okay with spending this time bringing food to my family. And when you get past that, then everything else kind of falls into place, actually. When it's not a chore, when it's something you choose, when you're like, yeah, I'm going to do this, then it's fine. Don't fit it into your day. Make space.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. It's something, as you were saying that, something that struck me is that how many food choices we make in the home every day, right? Like something as simple as like, what am I going to have for breakfast? What am I going to have as a snack in between breakfast and lunch? What am I going to have for lunch, right? It's, you've got at least 3 meal decisions you've got to make every day, plus like snack decisions along the way. And, all of these are preceded by some amount of preparation. If you're actually going to cook the meal, as opposed to go out and get it from a restaurant or to cook it out of a box, right? You've actually got to like do some planning to be like, well, do I have onions? Do I have potatoes? Whatever. But that there's so much, because all of that happens in the home, there's so much of that knowledge that gets passed on generationally, right? So what grandma does, the granddaughter's going to learn, and grandson, right? And if that's not there, or if that gets distorted over time because of the other factors in our food culture, then you can kind of see it happens very slowly, but over generations. Yeah, so good answer. So we got to make time first. I know that's hard for a lot of people, but I guess it's just something you got to dive into.
This is a whole, like Robert was saying earlier, he makes his vegetables in the morning for everything else. He's measing. So in an earlier podcast, he was saying he makes his vegetables for the day and everything else like that. And he does that, right? So that's your mise en place for the day. That's what you've got. You have your mise there to bring it back to the beginning of the conversation that we were talking about. You start adding those small things into your day and having it just be part of your routine, have it be normal that you're in the kitchen. Make it an awesome place that you want to be. Like we have like a booming speaker Alexa in our kitchen. We have like our overhead light can actually like turn different colors depending on like what mood my kid is in. Like totally, she can ask Alexa for it. Like, it's just a fun place, do your mise, have a great time, make it a great place to be.
I like it. I like it in there. And, we talked about, how it's nice to have cleanup. It helped. I actually like cleaning up after myself in the kitchen. It's something that's developed recently because I'll make breakfast and I got to let the cast iron cool down. So it'll just sit there on the stovetop and I'll put everything in the dishwasher and, just pour from the French press throughout the morning. But then after I'm done with my first block of work, middle of the day, and I have to go in there, then I like cleaning the cast iron skillet. I got the little chainmail scrubber and like putting the seasoning on it, heating it up. It helps me clear my mind in between the first, what I would call my first shift of the day to my second shift of the day.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Before I go to bed, I'm working, 9, 10, 11, sometimes later. And I won't go to bed until I've done that same process again because I'll typically have to cook something else in the evening, at least every other day at the very least. And then, I'll have to let the pans cool off and I'll forget about them and work. Then I'll go back over there and just that whole process of cleaning that. I can't leave the kitchen unless all that stuff's put away, but then it also makes me forget about my work.
Yeah, that's great. And in our family, since my wife is a pretty good cook, so she handles most of the cooking duties. But I love cleaning up too. So that's the one area I'm useful in.
Mm-hmm. Actually, Jace loves it too. He's actually he's a fanatical, like to the point where if we have guests, like he'll go into the kitchen. I'm like, sit your ass down. Stop. You need to talk to them and then you can go clean the
As soon as they drain their glass, it's taken away.
No, he's like, I'm done, bye.
Yeah.
Like he's in the kitchen. I'm like, sit your ass down now.
Socialize.
I know.
Well, this has been a fantastic conversation.
Oh yeah.
And I hope that we can, if you have time for us, we would love to have you back on the show to talk more about. I want to talk more about cooking because I think this is in our world of strength training and health and fitness. We talk a lot about what to eat, but we don't really talk too much about like how to make it. And that seems to be a big hurdle for a lot of people, is just like they're not sure where to start and what to do in the kitchen. So, there's clearly a lot more to it, like kind of foundational principles besides just like, hey, just pull up a recipe and do that, right? So I'd love to have you back on and talk about that and whatever else comes up in our conversation.
I would actually love that too. That'd be great because you nailed it. Actually getting to the point where you're cooking something in the kitchen is the last step. So there are so many steps in between there. And, like Robert and I were talking about, like there is a gap between, the knowledge of a nutritionist and the knowledge that we get when we're learning cooking. Like we have no nutrition courses when we're actually in culinary school at all. Like we don't. Like the only thing we learn is how not to kill you immediately. Like I was kind of saying earlier, and that's it. Like that's like, other than that, we're like, oh yeah, slowly killing you. Like, yeah, sure. Whatever. That's not actually not my problem. Like you actually just need to come back and do that. And, and I don't think because I've had several nutrition courses too, and they don't actually talk anything about how, restaurant cooking actually happens either. So there's a huge gap of knowledge there. And now, because of what we're talking about, just that gap of women going into the workforce and then everything else. So we've got multiple gaps there where people haven't been trained how to cook. And now we have these, bringing it all together. Now we have these, recipes online, these 30-minute meals that tell us that we should be doing these things in 20 and 30 minutes. And then when we don't, we feel like failures. So then we don't go back to the kitchen. And it's like, oh, dude, you're not failing. Like, you just haven't been trained for, I don't know, years and years and years on how to make, like, it's just going to take time. So there are definitely steps on being more comfortable, being able to get into the kitchen, being able to do these things that I think are going to be great for people who have goals in there to be able to just even get in there a little bit,
Can you teach me how to cook without 28 bowls? Like
I can.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right,
I can.
Can you teach me how to cut an onion?
I still can't do it.
I can do it too. I can do that too. Actually, so I cut an onion. I cut an onion in a completely fucked up way that is not my culinary school way. Like, it's so bad. It's just like my way of doing it. I don't know why. Like, I'm obsessed with doing it that way, and it's just like, I'm going to cut my finger off one day.
This is how innovation happens.
Yeah, pretty much. Innovation to go to the ER, maybe. But yeah. I think.
Well, Drea, thanks so much for joining the show. We really appreciate it, and we'll look forward to having you back on very soon to talk more.
Oh, thank you, sirs. I have very much enjoyed my time. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, we totally have like 10 episodes out of you if you wanted it.
Oh, 100%, man. This is great. Like, let's talk about it, because this is an area that there is a huge gap there. That's actually what I'm writing my book about right now. Like, there's a huge gap there.
Oh, awesome.
Huge gap. So we need to fill in that gap to get people in the kitchen doing their stuff so that they can, like, make their goals that you guys are talking about. Because if they can't do the other side, then, like, what are you doing, right? So
yep. Amen to that.
Yeah. Amen.
Absolutely.
All right. On that note, let's close out here. Thank you for tuning in to the Weights and Plates podcast. You can find me at www.weightsandplates.com or on Instagram at @Robert_Santana, or you can follow my gym at weights_and_plates.
You can find me, Trent, at marmaladecream.com. Email me there if you got any questions about training. Don't email me if you have any questions about cooking, because I can't help you there. But maybe Drea can help you. I will pass it. Tell you what, I'll make you all a deal out there. If you want to email me questions, I can forward those to Drea, and we'll talk about some of those on the next show.
Sure, absolutely.